Happening in 3 hours, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston is planning to give an update on the homelessness state of emergency. It's been his main priority since he was sworn in about 2.5 weeks ago. Johnston has promised to end homelessness during his time in office, starting with getting 1,000 people off the streets by the end of the year. So far, his administration has opened up an emergency operations center, announced plans to convert a hotel into affordable housing, and is scheduling trash pickups for homeless encampments. Today's update again happening this morning at 10:15.
Right now, as Fort Collins prepares for more storms tonight, they are still cleaning up from Monday. Downtown was a mess, so were parts of the CSU campus. At least 2 restaurants in this area flooded and had to close for a little bit. Scientists say over 3 inches of rain came pouring down in just under 2 hours. When severe weather and flash flooding does threaten our communities, we get emergency alerts, but that wasn't always the case in our state.
Right, so it all changed after one of Colorado's deadliest disasters, the Big Thompson Canyon flood. 9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez is live in Denver. Brianna, that flood shaped how our state prepares now for natural disasters.
It did. 47 years ago, that flood killed more than 140 people. But back then, emergency officials say they just had zero tools to alert folks to evacuate the area. Now they remember what went wrong and they feel a little bit more prepared. So back in September of 2013, Colorado had yet another flooding with flash floods from Boulder to Colorado Springs. 9 people drowned. However, many were able to get out safely because the National Weather Service said that they had better emergency alerts and more accurate warnings. Nowadays, when an emergency alert warning is sent out, it can go through cell phones, radios, landlines, and signs on the road as well.
The reason that there were so many deaths was there was really no way to alert a lot of the folks in the area. Most of what we do in emergency management is we take historical information, we try to figure out what worked, keep that or expand upon it, what didn't work, and how can we make it better in the future.
One thing that emergency officials say that hasn't changed over the past couple of years is how to get to people who are in remote areas and have absolutely no cell signal. So coming up in the next hour, you're going to hear from them and what they're doing to change that and keep people safe as well.
All right, Brianna, we appreciate you breaking that down for us. Thank you.
An update this morning, the officer convicted for leaving a woman in a patrol car that was hit by a train is now off the job. Fort Lupton police say they fired Jordan Steinke on Tuesday. Last week, a judge convicted Steinke on 2 misdemeanors, assault and endangerment. She put Ureni Rios in a police car parked on the railroad tracks. Then the freight train came. Rios survived the crash. Steinke had been on unpaid leave since December. Now, the officer who parked his car on the train tracks has already lost his job. That officer is facing several misdemeanor charges tied to the crash.
This morning, former President Trump is facing a 3rd indictment on federal charges. A grand jury issued 4 new counts connected to the 2020 presidential election. This is the first time the justice system is charging someone for their actions during the transfer of power. Trump is facing 4 counts. The first, conspiracy to defraud the government. The second, conspiracy to obstruct the elections officials proceedings on January 6th. Third charge is for conspiracy against voting rights. And finally, obstruction of the vote of certification. The indictment refers to 6 unnamed co-conspirators, though some have been identified, including Rudy Giuliani and former CU visiting professor John Eastman. Trump is expected to be arraigned in this case tomorrow.
New overnight, the country's credit rating is being downgraded. The rating agency Fitch moved the U.S. from AAA to AA+. Fitch noted a steady deterioration in the governance over the last 20 years. The downgrade comes after lawmakers negotiated up until the last minute on a debt ceiling deal earlier this year, risking the nation's first default. And developing this morning, the ACLU is suing the Colorado Springs Police Department.
The lawsuit accuses the department of targeting left-leaning political activists using unjustified warrants. This all revolves around a woman who was arrested during a protest in 2021. Jacqueline Armendariz Unsueta was part of the Housing for All protest. She says police rushed the crowd and arrested 2 of the organizers. She says an officer was coming toward her, so she started running. In the chaos, she dropped her bike. Unsueta says the bike didn't even hit the officer, but police tracked her down and arrested her for attempted assault of an officer. After that, police raided her house and seized computers and phones.
I value my integrity and ethics, and to be targeted for simply speaking the truth in the interest of protecting my community was one of the most painful experiences of my life.
The ACLU is accusing police of retaliating against protesters and using unjustified warrants. The lawsuit also says the department went undercover inside organizations to create dossiers about activists. You can see them doing that on body cameras. They also talked about having undercover cops in the crowd. We contacted the police department about all of this. They said they do not comment on pending or active litigation.